Guess who got brands talking? Brandlife.co.za.
Welcome to the Financial Independence Coach, naturally creating freedom, meaning, and wealth. Brought to you by Pty Ltd, in association with Brandlife.co.za. And here is your host and coach, Yvonne E. Fentello.
Good morning, Brand Life listeners and Pty streamers. How are you guys doing today? It's been 3 weeks since our last show. Live recording here at 27 Boxes in Melville, and I am so pleased to be with you this morning. It's a nice sunny day, and I believe we've got quite a bit of a hot topic. I've received quite a few WhatsApps and emails asking me, but why do I need to know who am I naturally to achieve freedom, meaning, and wealth? Now, there's quite a few different ways we can answer this. The best way is to ask you a question in return. Are you a clone of somebody else? Are you a clone of Richard Branson, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, Brian Welch, Barry Mitchell? Are you a clone, or are you a unique individual? Because let's face it, if you are a clone of another individual, then you follow everything that they do. You've got the same personality traits, you've got the same likings and dislikes, you've got the same values, you've got the same instinctive needs, the same desires. But you are not. You are your unique individual self. I had a training session this morning where we touched on this subject a bit, and the best way for me to explain it is from the source from which you were created. And as I'm not talking religion, don't get me wrong, from the source from which you were created. You were created in your unique self. There's only one of you. No other person has the same curly hair, blue eyes, blush skin, brown eyes, green eyes. In the same way, nobody else has got the same needs and desires as what you've got. In the same way, not every one of us wants to be a farmer. Not every one of us have that unique touch with plants or animals. Not all of us have that ability to look at computer coding and instinctively know exactly what that code is going to mean. So how in heaven's name are you going to achieve your freedom, your meaning, your own wealth, your own abundance, by your own definition, if you are emulating somebody else? So you have to find out who you are. I know of Kung Fu masters that have spent years meditating on the question of who am I? What do I want? What do I need? It's not something that you flick your fingers and discover within a day. as a result of a lifetime of experience, however long your lifetime has been thus far. It's as a result of your knowledge, what you have learned. It's a result of who you are deep inside, your DNA. Go to any scientist and ask them about DNA, and they'll give you this long spiel about how each one is uniquely different, although they have the same factors and the same amount of strands, but each one is individual, the same as your fingerprints. Those little markings at the ends of your fingers, each are individual. So how do you want to then just emulate a plan of action that worked for somebody else? Granted, most of the masters that we look at these days, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Brian Wells, Dr. DeMartini, Brian Tracy, Barry Mitchell, Dr. Michelle, Max Kahn, some who were featured on the show, has gone through a process of discovering who they are and what works for them. A couple of episodes back, we spoke about the shoebox experiment. Now, if you followed my advice and my recommendation, and you started with the shoebox experiment, and you collected those slips, and you started recording it, whether in an Excel spreadsheet, whether on Waves app or Wave apps, as I mentioned before, but you've actually recorded that information, and you maybe compare it with a friend that took up the same experiment, you'll notice that your spending habits are two different things. I absolutely love coffee. I cannot go to a venue without testing at least 1 cup of coffee in that venue. I'm a caffeine addict, let's face it. But not everybody likes coffee. Some of my coaching clients won't even touch it. They think it's revolting, but I adore it. I love the aroma. So in my spending habits, you'll see I drink a lot of coffee. I pay for coffee. That's my spending habit. That's what I'm willing to spend money on. In the same way, in your shoebox experiment, you should be able to notice what is it that you spend money on. In the same, living by the same learning strategies, leading by example, my 16-year-old son does not have the same spending habits as I do. Where I would never in my life think of paying for a ticket to go to a gaming expo, he would sell off some of his games, which is the stuff that he spends his money on, to actually go to an event like that. In my younger years, I used to go to music festivals. I don't see the need for the crowds no more, so I don't spend the money on it. Yet somebody else would thrive on being at a live concert of, you name the artist, and they'll be there, first in line, yay! And that's what they spend their money on. And that is a reflection of who you are naturally. Yes, it's also a reflection of what you are giving Parkinson's law access to. Little spending habits which you know you should not do, but through it being a habit, you continue doing it. And it's only once you have noticed, once you have pinned down what those habits are, once you have pinned down who you are, that you can change those habits. that you can build the strategy to effectively get to where you want to be. To get to that level of freedom, that level of, let's all face it, freedom, the word, is an illusion. Because freedom in its actual context is order that allows you to choose what you want to do. So it's not just free, there has to be a structure. If I want to take my sabbaticals to nature, a week at a time, and just get away from technology and everything else, and just be in nature, revitalize my soul, I must be able to have a structure in place to move away from what I need to do to take that break, to revitalize myself. But if I don't have a system in place, an order in place, I cannot achieve that freedom. And to put that system, that order in place, I need to know what works for me. There is absolutely no way I can sit in an office from 8 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. No way. I can't. I cannot sit in peak hour traffic going to work to be there at 8. That's not who I am. It might not be who you are. But yet, you don't want to find out who your natural self is? You would live through the frustration of sitting in peak hour traffic, day in and day out, the same route to work, the same time. And every single morning, sitting in that traffic, you would mouth off and complain about the traffic, about the other individuals on the road who may or may not be adhering to the road rules. Or about the fact that maybe you just spilled coffee on yourself, or you got toothpaste on your shirt, or the children is going to be late for school because of a traffic jam. Now, if that's not your natural self, why not take the time to find out what is your natural self? Because once you've found your natural self, you can put a system, an order in place to create new habits to fit with yourself. And once you have found that flow that works for you, that order, that system, those procedures to get the result of what you choose that you want, you will find that you open yourself to the next step, which is meaning. You will uplift yourself. You will grow not just in your relationships, your culture with other individuals, but within yourself. I have never seen a child that does not grow emotionally when that child is happy. That is within our nature as humans. We cannot grow emotionally, we cannot grow mentally, we cannot grow spiritually unless we have found an order or a system to provide us the freedom to grow. But more on this matter after the ad break. See you on the flip side.
This is what you missed on brandlife.co.za.
We're broadcasting live in one of the boxes at 27 boxes.
Hey, can I ask you something there? Can you please tell me, like, do you think like the post-90s, like, did they really fully integrate, you know?
Sure.
Since we're talking about integrating today, though.
But you do what? Civil engineering?
Civil engineering, yeah.
Okay, and how's that going for you?
It's okay.
So a whole lot of studying.
School, it's a lot of studying.
And
I
banking
guess.
school, a lot of banking school.
I don't bunk school. Like, I just don't go to school when they tell us not to go.
Lies.
Well, no, I've seen this with my eyes live.
Someone was saying, I'm sure there's 10 soapies now happening
Listen.
same time.
I'm gonna say something, right? That might
Say it.
That might sound like I'm shading or hating
Yeah.
or whatever. There's lots of work for actors right now, but lots of actors aren't working. Lots of people are acting.
Ooh. Insightful conversation.
It's the official Major World Online Stu Invasion.
Bars on bars.
What about me right now? It's about our guest, Bafetti, skip on. I'm out in Matalele, Bafetti. Yo, I'm a play in studio, Bafetti, skip on. Oh, freestyle. Shang freestyle. Fano kuma no baba Andy.
Dayo Andy. Hashtag.
Ahlangani sela mouth it beat dog. Ngokucela.
Young niggas ambition, waking up is working for money. Changing their past, feeding their fams, balang lali. We keep it running like SPV, exchanging money.
Man, nice. Hey. Call them unexpected experts. White sweatshirt.
Hey.
Looking down on these niggas, my damn neck hurts.
Woo.
You can go ahead, homie, give me your best work. I bet you take your phone out and mumble up your first words.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville. This is brandlive.co.za.
And we're back. You're listening to brandlive.co.za, recorded here live at 27 Boxes in Melville. You're listening to the Financial Independence Coach, brought to you by Yvonne Pty Ltd. Before the break, we discussed why is it important to know what your natural self is. And I ended at meaning. And as I was saying, I have not seen a child that is growing, that is not happy. And I'm talking about not growing in age or in length or maybe in width, but emotionally, spiritually. As that is our nature as humans. We only grow when we in a position of content, being happy, being grateful, feeling loved. And all of that is part of meaning. It's part of the culture. It's part of the relationships that you build with your co-workers, your family, your friends, the people you interact with. Believe it or not, it is part of how you treat the person that puts petrol in the car or packs your groceries in the bag at the shop. Now, if the way you treat those people, when you sit and look back, and maybe you haven't been that nice with a specific individual, and you feel that that is not really your nature. Have you ever gone back to analyze it? Why did I treat that person that way? Was it because my entire day was such a rush to get from point A to point B to end up at Z at the end of the day, within that specific time slot, within that flow of somebody else that does not suit you, that does not fit you, that does not flow with your energy? Then why not find out what it is, who you are, to find that flow, to find that order, to be able to build that meaning, to build that culture, to be the person you want to be. Do you want to be the grumpy old man with a walking stick just swearing at everybody that crosses his path? No offense to the grandpas out there. Still enough time to change. The only time you cannot change is when you in that little wooden box 6 feet under the ground. Then it's too late. But up until then, you have got time to change. You can be who you want to be. And as a result of all these little changes and knowing what those changes are and implementing that plan of strategy, you can get to that wealth, that profit that you keep, that abundance that you're building. For we were placed here for 3 reasons. We have a purpose. Every single individual on good planet Earth has got a purpose. Their soul has got a purpose to attain. And to attain that purpose, you have to work at it and maintain it. And working at it and maintaining it is not necessarily the same for each of us. Neither is the flow of how we do it, the order that we create, the systems, the procedures. Neither is the way we grow spiritually, culturally, in our relationships. A very good friend of mine, to this day, has not married because she doesn't feel the need for it. And she's almost a good 20 years older than what I am. But she doesn't feel the need to have a partner, to have children. Her meaning is fulfilled on completely different ways. And I'll be honest with you, she's a dear friend of mine. But her meaning and her fulfillment of her meaning and the fulfillment of my meaning are 2 different things. And being mentally strong enough to recognize that each of us have our own meanings to fulfill, our own purpose, our own way of how to get to where we want to be in abundance, in wealth, in profit. You can only achieve that once you know who and what you are. There's an old quote, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who this quote is accredited to. But if you do not have something to believe in and stand up for, you will fall for everything. And the only way you will know what you believe in, what you stand up for, is to know who you are. And I mean really who you are. On all facets of life. What is your spending habits? Are you the person that likes big luxury cars? Do you want to one day drive one of those sleek little sports lines in one of those funky colors? Red, yellow, green? Or are you quite happy with a safe, secure, A-line, straight Volvo? Who are you? What are your preferences? What are your likings? It is only once you know who you naturally are, and you know where you want to go. What is the abundance? What is the wealth? What is the profit that you want to have? That you can formalize something in between to get to it. Let's face facts. All these gurus and masters that we learn about, that we read about, that we see, Not one of them was an overnight success. Not one. Not a single one of them was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Not a single one of them had an easy life. They have gone through difficulties. They had to go through an entire elimination process until they found what it is that works for them. Robert Kiyosaki was first a salesman. And then he went to war and became a soldier. He went to war and came back and he was a salesman again. He realized sales was important. He realized the importance of being able to sell. But he didn't stay a salesman at the courier company for the rest of his life. He realized, he discovered that he was more than that. Only because he took the time, he took the effort to find out what it is that he wants. Because once you know who you are naturally, what is your preferences? What is your habits? What is your energy flow? Then you can build the order to provide you the freedom. You can build the cultures to provide you the meaning that you need. You can build your abundance to keep the profits that you want. Going back to the shoebox experiments, looking at those spending habits, tracking them, knowing what you are doing with your money, looking at where your bucket is leaking and why it's happening. And knowing yourself. You can start taking action to stop some of those habits, to alter some of those habits, to create completely new habits. If you want to be a multi-millionaire in whatever time period it is that you have set out for yourself to be, and please note, this is your time frame, this is your goal, this is what you are working on, then you can work out that plan or strategy and you can see what you have to do to affect it. But up until that stage where you know who you are, what you are doing and where you want to go, you cannot do anything. You will keep on running like a hamster on a wheel in that cage. You will be stuck in the rat race. You will have your parents constantly nagging on you. No, you need to get an education. No, you need to get a safe, secure job. Because if you cannot find that something within yourself that you believe in, nobody else has to. You have to believe it. You have to stand up for it. You have to achieve it. Only then you can build up to be where you want to be. Only then you will be able to achieve those goals. You will be able to build that profit, to build that abundance, to build that wealth. But that's all from me for this week. I will see you next week again here on brandlife.co.za, recorded live at 27 Boxes in Melville. You were listening to the Financial Independence Coach, brought to you by Yvonne Pty Ltd. Our website .co.za, and I will see you next week. Shalom.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.